I have a different part of the camera open so I can actually see myself to make sure that you can see the pieces that I'm using. So apologies at times if I'm not looking at you and I appear to be looking just off to the side. It can be quite disconcerting to actually have my face sat there looking at me while I'm filming. I'm trying to look into the camera lens at you. Hi and welcome to Knit with Hannah. I'm Hannah, I'm your knitting nurse to help you knit with ease, confidence and joy. Now, let me tell you something. I was filming last week and we were getting all organised together, creating a video to figure out how to use the Swift. And if you remember, I had skeins of yarn that I wanted to roll into balls of yarn. Problem with the video. The light where I was filming it, because I decided to do it in the living room so that there was more space and there was the opportunity to see the whole thing in the video at once rather than on the table here. And it didn't really work because the light was dreadful. Got the big window right next to me in the living room, just like I've got a big window here. And I had the studio light on, which I think is probably reflecting in my glasses right now. Didn't really work. There wasn't enough light. So I am going to talk to you here. I'm also going to slip in some of the footage from last week because I did get some close-ups of putting the skein on the yarn, etc., in the living room with the camera on my phone. That picked up the images much better. So that part of the footage we will keep, and I will just drop it in here when it's relevant. So we're doing documentary style, B-roll, all sorts. So we're going to edit and see how it comes together. First of all, let's talk about the Swift, because that's what this video is about. It's setting up the Swift and putting the yarn, skein of yarn, on the Swift so that we can start knitting. Now, start knitting. I don't mean knitting, I mean start rolling it into a ball. Okay, so this is the Swift. This is one where it sits on the table or it can sit on the floor. This is how I've used it actually in the past. I've put it on the floor. It's got a beautifully stable base. This is by Knit Pro, and actually the weight of the base is really helpful. It's got pads on the bottom, so it's not going to ruin the furniture, and it's all made of natural materials. It's wood and there are metal rivets in it. We have, let me show you here, we have this piece here which is wood as well, and that just tightens up so we can move it up and down and set this up at the right size. Now I'm going to show you another one as well. This one is by Knit Pro. There's another one here which is by Leica. There you go. So Leica, you may remember, sent me some knitting needles and they also sent me this. So it doesn't stand on the table in the same way, it clamps to the table. Let me get it out of the box and I will show you. So we have a couple of pieces separately. This as well, because we need to clamp it to the table as there isn't an actual stand to it. You use it in the same way. This clamp here, you need a table that is deep enough on the edge and you need a table that is heavy enough, because this is going to be moving round as you use it, and if it's not a heavy enough table then you're going to have a problem. I was showing you how to do this in the living room with a coffee table next to me, and it was a small one. It was a nest of tables, so it was a small individual table. This would not have worked. It probably would have toppled it over. So make sure you're using a kitchen table, or like I have here. My desk here is actually a dining table. So this is the clamp with which you stick it on the table, and you would not use this small one, but use this large clamp here, and you will stick that through the hole at the bottom there and wind it up so that it attaches to the table. And then everything else is identical. We have the top to it, which is really nice, so you can hold on to it as you're moving these slats in and out. And again, you have the clamp at the bottom to hold the slats in place. Okay, I'm going to carry on with the other one so you can see me using that, and it's a lot easier to identify the pieces that I'm doing. Okay, I have a different part of the camera open so I can actually see myself, to make sure that you can see the pieces that I'm using. So apologies at times if I'm not looking at you and I appear to be looking just off to the side. It can be quite disconcerting to actually have my face sat there looking at me while I'm filming. I'm trying to look into the camera lens at you. Right into your living room, right into your knitting studio while you're watching the video. Oh dear, that sounds like a Doctor Who episode, doesn't it? Right, let me put this back into the bag and I will be with you. The skeins of yarns that I set up in the last video that I filmed last week without the decent line yarn light is now balls of yarn. So basically, I can't use those skeins of yarn and wind them up again in here. So it's a bit of a problem doing this video. I've also knitted with part of it as well. So you definitely cannot see that because it's now an item. But we're going to set up the Swift first. So the first job is to, just put it on the table. And ideally you are just going to have enough space around you. Make sure you recognise this is going to move around and around and around. To start with, you don't know how wide or tall you need the item, the slats. So just give it a loose shape to start with, and you're going to pull this up at the base here and just tighten the bolt. That's that. You're all organised. And the skein goes on this from here. When the skein goes on, you can then open this up and tighten it just so that the skein is more evenly sat around it and is not likely to fall off from these edge pieces here. Okay, we don't want it falling off of the edge, and we don't want it too tight so that the yarn is actually stretched. So an even kind of mix there. But once that's set up, you'll be able to do it. Okay, let me get a skein of yarn. I do have some here that have just been sitting around waiting for me to wind up. I just need to decide what to do with them. This is actually one that my sister gave me for Christmas a few years ago, and I've never actually used it. It is 4-ply. That you can tell why I've not actually used it. I don't generally knit with 4-ply yarn. I need to decide what to do with it. This is from, if I'm right, this is from Scotland. It's the Hebrides. There you go, it's the Outer Hebrides. That makes sense. She was in the Outer Hebrides a few years ago. She lives in Edinburgh, so she visited the Hebrides with the family. So this is Astair yarn. You can see that there. It is a lovely yarn. It is Shetland, Scottish, Merino and alpaca. 50 grams here. So what shall I do with it? I don't know. Now you can tell here there's an end to the skein which is just a loop. You can tell it's just the yarn going backwards and forwards. So the skein is folded in half. And once you take a look at that, you'll be able to see at the other end, it looks more like a knot. And the pieces are just pushed into each other. That's the end that we're going to start taking note of. And you're going to pull the label off. keep the label so you know where it is, and keep it with the finished rolled ball. So these we have the end of the yarn coming through a loop. So we open that up like that. You can untwist the yarn there and you'll have a full skein. Now, as we finish here, keep hold of one of the loops at the top, one end or the other, or both, and you're going to gently open it up. As it opens up, you will see there are points in the yarn where there's just an extra loop of yarn. There's a couple of pieces of yarn there, and as you move around you will see more of those threads of yarn just holding it together. This is so it doesn't get tangled. Do not undo this, whether it's in a simple knot, or cut it yet. What you need to do is place it over the skein and only then cut them, because as soon as you cut them, then the strands are free to roam. They will do what they like and they will move away from each other, as yarn tends to do, and you will get in a right tangle. Put this on the Swift first. Here we go. So we'll start off like I suggested, feeling, is this too tight? Is this too loose? I'm just going to loosen that so that it will sit over the Swift nice and loosely. And then I'm just going to tighten that up because it is very loose at the edges. Okay, there we go. That's relatively comfortable. And it's at this point that I will move around and find these threads that are holding it together. There, okay? And we can cut those quite easily and pull those little pieces of yarn out, okay? Just move it around, find the next one, and just cut that. And take that piece off. There we are, that is actually the end of the yarn. So I will just cut that knot off. You see where the yarn is starting and finishing there. One more piece here. There we are. Okay. It wasn't. There it is. That's the end of the yarn. Okay, so that is what we're looking for, and that is where you start to wind the yarn up. Okay, I am not going to do that in this video. What I'm going to do is direct you to the video where I actually wind yarn into balls with the Nostepinne. There it is. This is what I use. You can have a hand cranked or an electric yarn winder, which you can again clamp to the table, and you can just set it up next to the Swift and you can start winding your yarn without using one of these. I actually like the process of sitting there with this. I use skeins of yarn so rarely that I actually enjoy it. It's just a slower process when I start knitting, and it feels like a real special process. If I was doing this with every project, then I would not be happy. So I would very likely get something which was more of a process that didn't involve me so much. I could even set someone else up, like Nick, to do this for me. But I'm going to sit here. Now that it's on here and I've cut them, I have no choice but to wind the ball yarn up into a ball with this or something similar. So that's what I'm going to do. I will sit there and do that. But what I'm going to do is just show you what I've knitted with some of the yarn that I wound into the balls last week when I was doing it. There you go. That's a start. Now, this is a sneak peek at one of the hats that's coming up. This is an old pattern that I am revisiting. So these patterns are from 2008 to 2010. It's around that time that I was creating patterns first, and this will be the first children's patterns that I have on the website. So this hat is from those first 2 balls of yarn that I wound into balls last week, and these are actually with a new yarn that I've not knitted with before, because it is actually brand new this year. This is Mode at Rowan chunky yarn. I'm really happy with it. I was a bit concerned because I thought it would be too thick, because it is a chunky yarn and it states on it 7mm needles, but I've been really happy with the way it knits up the chunky patterns. It's a really comfortable yarn to use. So yeah, I'm really happy with that. The other yarn actually has ended up into patterns as well, with the poms on the top. That was the chunky retreat yarn from West Yorkshire Spinners. So all of those I'm really happy with. I would say the one that finished up with this yarn, which is Blueface Leicester. I love Blueface Leicester, it is so soft, but I would say the way that it's spun into yarn isn't quite as tight or dense as this one. So I don't think I've been as happy with it, but it is more than sufficient. I think if I'm being really technical and very critical, then I would say I'm not sure it's an ideal yarn, but it does a really good job. I'm just a knitter who actually likes what I like. So this is the other yarn that I've already showed you that I wound into balls, and this is from the Woollen Wytch. Like I said, she has a website and a YouTube channel, so do go and show her some love. That's hand dyed, and I got that from the Southern Wool Show. This is the Heathland Whispers DK that she has. I absolutely love this, and I was thinking I was going to make some mitts with this, but I want to show it off. And we were driving home from a wool shop this morning. I don't know when I last went to a yarn shop. Yes, we went to the Yarn Wool Show in September, but last time I went to a wool shop, I honestly cannot remember. We went to our LYS, local yarn shop, and got some more of this. And driving home, I realised what I'm going to do with this. I hope it turns out as well as I think it will. It just came to me like that. I thought, yes, you have to do that. So I will let you know, and I will probably not let the YouTube membership knitters know before anyone else. Because it might be a bit of a secret. Anyway, let's see what happens, shall we? That's how I knit sometimes. I just have to keep it to myself. The Sashiko cowl that I created last December, I didn't really share with you until late in the summer this year, so that we could knit it together in September. So yeah, I like keeping things to myself. Sometimes it's best, isn't it? We like surprises. So there we go. This is the yarn that I'm going to knit up. It's got greys, but it has real beautiful hints of denim-y blue to it, as well as the greens and the oranges. I absolutely love this yarn. I'm definitely going to get more of it. If this works out for the first one, my first experiment, oh wow, yes, please, definitely. So that is that. I will get to winding this into a ball and see whether 4-ply brown Shetland yarn, God, that feels good. That feels really nice. See whether that inspires me into knitting something as well. Okie dokie. I will See you again soon. Thank you to the members. Like I mentioned, they get some extras and exclusives. They have 2 extra videos every month, and quite often I give them 3 just because. So do go over there. There's lots already there to watch. So if you fancy a binge and just want something to watch while you're knitting over the next few weeks, we're settling into autumn knitting, and there's just that energy moving into the knitting world. So do join the membership and go over there, and you get first dibs on watching these videos because I share them with them before they are released here on the main channel. And over there as well, you get first access to me answering your comments. You will be priority. If I don't have as much time to answer comments, then I will prioritise answering the members' comments over anyone else's. That's just the way it is. Gotta make sure I do those first. So if you want in, then go and have a look at that. But also, members, if you're in the 2nd or 3rd tier, you get a discount on these patterns until the end of December this year. So go over there and take a look at them as well. I'll be releasing more of these patterns as I knit them up over the next few weeks. I can't tell you when or where. It's just one of those things. My life at the moment is feeling like that. It will happen when it happens. So thanks for joining me for this Swift video. I do hope this video has been helpful. That's what I'm here for, to help you knit with ease, confidence and joy, and indeed enjoy your yarn with ease, confidence and joy as well. I will see you again soon. Bye for now. Happy knitting.